So it seems like each week for the last month or two, we've been talking about a heavy rain event somewhere in your basin. Can you put some of these recent rains into perspective?
Yeah, well, over the last month, we've had 10 to 20 inches of rainfall that has occurred over Louisiana and parts of Mississippi, and even areas up into Arkansas and areas into Tennessee. We've had about 5 to 10 inches of rainfall up in those areas too. So certainly over the last month, we've been very wet. We've had 500 to 600% of normal rainfall over parts of Louisiana, Mississippi over the last month. So certainly conditions are very wet across the area, and we do have scattered minor to moderate flooding occurring over parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi.
So NOAA's spring flood outlook for this year, it wasn't really indicating too many problems. Could you emphasize the importance of always being prepared for flooding, especially because those shorter term events can come about pretty quickly?
Yeah, we really didn't have much of a snowpack and stuff that would affect the Mississippi River, so really we weren't looking for anything as far as major flooding along the Mississippi River because of the drainage for the Mississippi covers about 41% of the country and stuff. So at that time we weren't really looking at too bad of a flood season. Certainly, though, after the last month, a month and a half, we've had a lot of rainfall that's occurred over the lower part of the Mississippi Valley. We've had for the Mississippi though itself, the Mississippi River is actually not doing too bad. We've actually have all locations below flood at this moment, but the rainfall that we're expecting here over the next few days in the Ohio Valley and the Tennessee Valley and Missouri Valley, we are expecting another flood to work its way down the Mississippi River, and we do anticipate getting some minor flooding at some locations along the Mississippi River itself. Now, some of the smaller tributaries that go into the Mississippi River, specifically up in Arkansas in the Black White River systems, the Washita River system in Arkansas, we are anticipating having some more problems up there, especially as we work our way into the next week. We're looking at rainfall amounts anywhere between 2 to 5 inches up in that area, and that will probably give us more renewed and more flooding along those river systems and stuff over the next few days. So, like you said, even though when we do these long range outlooks and stuff, and we don't see as much activity, and a lot of it's related to snow, certainly when we get these heavy rainfall events that we've been having over the last month, any and everywhere could have potential for flooding across the area just because it's getting into April and May, and this year, especially into April and May, we typically get frontal boundaries that kind of stall out over our area and stuff and can produce really heavy rainfall. We got lots of moisture from the Gulf working in with these frontal boundaries and stuff, and certainly can have a lot of flood problems in April and May, and we typically do.
So you mentioned all of the wetness we've been having, and what does a very wet spring mean for the summertime or hurricane season? Can this increase the likelihood of more problems down the road?
Yeah, it's really going to depend on whether we get some dry air into the area and allow us to dry out for a period of time. I know for the next few days we will dry out in some locations, but that rainfall will return again in parts of northern Louisiana, North Mississippi, Arkansas, and into Tennessee. The big question going into summer, though, is whether we get that dry air, because obviously the leaves and the trees are out, and that allows for evaporation. Then when we get temperatures up in the 90s, it allows things to dry out pretty quick too. So as we usually get into summer, so we start to dry out as we get into the June and July time period and stuff, and that allows us to have a little bit more capacity with the river systems and stuff as we get into the summer. But certainly if we continue the rainfall pattern that we've been in here for the last month or so, that certainly could change things and allow us to have more flooding problems in the future. And as we get into the hurricane season, especially as we get in the very early parts and stuff, we can typically have maybe tropical storms or very weak hurricanes in the beginning of the season that produce a tremendous amounts of rainfall. And several events that we've had over the past years, we've had some very good flood events that's occurred in June with the early hurricane season, allowing us to have flood problems. So certainly we're going to have to keep a close eye as we get into hurricane season here in about another month or so. And any of that rainfall that does occur and stuff could present problems for our area.
Well, it is something we will definitely be watching. Jeff Graschel, the hydrologist at the Lower Mississippi River Forecast Center, thank you so much for joining us here today. We really do appreciate it.